What's up, everyone? Welcome to Kava and Kettlebells. This is Charles.
Hey guys, this is Heidi. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at Kava_kettlebells. Hit the thumbs up to like this episode and the bell to subscribe. All right, on today's episode, we are going to be talking about Kava and digestion, aka poopies. So, yes. If you've ever been to a Kava bar, you know it is common almost always for that bathroom to be blown up. And there's a reason for that.
Stanky.
Which
and the good Kava bar will always have air freshener in there because, you can only mask the smell of poop to some extent.
Yeah, in my opinion, the poopery is the best to kind of get rid of it, kind of blend with it.
On the thing, right?
Yeah, it's both. So you spray on the thing. You have to remember to spray it in the toilet before you do your thing, before you drop the bomb. And then you or fudge sauce, whatever. Who knows? Ooh. And then you can spray in the air as well. So if you ever go to a Kava bar and they don't have some air freshener in there, rookie mistake.
Or if you're drinking Kava at home, if you're having like a party or something like that and you're having people who drink Kava, have it around. But if it's just you, maybe like your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, what have you, they're probably used to it by that point. But like Heidi said, we're talking today all about Kava and digestion. Now, this is something that is a bit of a topic. And I think people kind of get sometimes a little weird talking about bowel movements and digestion, but our gut is the most critical thing to our body. Like it honestly is. Like how your gut functions, what you feed your gut, what you don't feed your gut, and then how you digest food, how you digest beverages, sweeteners, everything in between. I think at the end of the day, we all want to have a pleasant experience when it comes to digesting, and then also when it comes to our bowel movements. Now, Kava is notorious for having certain effects on the digestion system. For some people, they don't notice anything, but for most people, they do notice an effect after drinking Kava.
Like I'll say for Charles and I, we're very different on that spectrum. So for Charles, he uses Kava to help push something out, For me, I don't notice that effect. There might be an occasion where I'll drink some Kava and I'm like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. But it's not common. I think it's more coincidence when that happens. So everyone's different. Again, when we talk about botanicals, everyone's body responds differently. So even though the average person might, get some movement going, it may not work like that for everyone. But if you are someone who has trouble going to the bathroom regularly, or maybe you just get a little bit more backed up, then Kava can be a great thing to help just kind of keep you regular and have it smooth gliding.
Ooh, smooth. Well, so let's get into it. How I like to look at the digestion piece of Kava is the types of Kava that you have out there, and those will have different effects on your digestion system. And then also the actual effects of Kava itself, and why it does cause bowel movements. So we'll kind of start with the types of Kava out there. So when you go drink Kava or you purchase Kava, especially if you're new to Kava, you'll see there's different forms, right? So the traditional way to drink Kava is to take the root, to grind it up, and then to strain it. That's called medium grind or traditional Kava. So to make that, again, you take the Kava that's ground up, the root, you put it into a strainer bag and you squeeze it in water, and that gives you kind of like a muddy looking water that you'll drink.
It's kind of like making tea. So if you're used to Kava, that's how a lot of people will explain it. It's like making tea.
And that is in our opinion, the best way to drink it. It's the most effective way, in our opinion, to drink it because you get the most effects from, that medium grind traditional Kava. And also, it's the most gentle on your stomach, especially when it comes to the drink itself. Now, there's Kava capsules out there, which have, the Kava root extract, things like that. Those are generally very well tolerated because it's an extract and it's a very, very small amount, right? Especially if you're taking it like, let's say like one capsule of like 300 milligrams of Kava lactones. that's, small. It's not going to have a major effect on your digestive system. We're kind of more talking about like when you're drinking kava and preparing it. So, I'll be honest, like I'm someone who does have IBS. I've had issues with that, have colonoscopies and everything like that kind of stuff. So, I'm very careful with what I consume and what I drink. And I'm very sensitive to ingredients, foods, all that kind of stuff as far as like what affects my GI system. So I'll kind of give it from a perspective too of like, someone who does have IBS, and then, with Heidi who doesn't have IBS.
Yeah, unless I eat cartoned egg whites, then
That's the one thing.
I am sensitive to that, and so that will bring on the not so fun bathroom times.
Yeah, with chocolate volcano.
Oh my gosh, I didn't say that.
But so, all right, so
that's a medium grind, but another common way that you can actually prepare the rooted version of kava, not using extract, is also having an instant or micronized version.
Yeah, now, so the instant kava, and now instant and micronized, what are great about both those is unlike traditional kava, where you have to strain it and prepare it, it takes, about like, it's like 10 minutes to make it, not crazy, but it's still a process. Instant and micronized kava, you straight up just like take like a tablespoon of it, put it in water, stir it up, and drink it. So very, very quick, easy, and very accessible to people who are coming into the kava community and don't quite know how to make traditional kava.
Now, what is the difference between instant and micronized? Because I think a lot of people get confused on that and think they are the same, because they are very similar.
They are.
But they are different.
Yeah, absolutely. So instant kava is traditional kava that's been made and then it's just been dehydrated. So it truly, truly is what we would call the closest thing to traditional kava, but in an instant form. And instant kava too typically does have a less effect on the GI system than traditional kava. How I kind of look at it as like a hierarchy, from best to worst as far as effects on your digestion. The best is traditional kava. That's going to give you the least effects. And then next is instant kava. And the reason why instant kava still does have kind of an effect on you is you're still having matter, so like physical, like plant matter, go down your system. Now, micronized kava, all that is, it's just like traditional kava, so that ground up root, but it's just ground up even more fine. So in reality, when you think about it, micronized kava is just a super, super fine version of traditional kava that's been ground up enough to where you can digest it a little bit more. Because when you see traditional kava, sometimes when you get in a bag, it's still got like, kind of like, not like stems, but like they almost kind of look like little...
It looks like stems. It's not, but...
Yeah, kind of looks like little wood chips almost
in
there. And do not drink traditional kava without prepping it, because you will not feel good.
And so that, is a good point about instant kava. So instant kava is still a good option, but typically you cannot drink nearly as much of instant kava, which is, again, just the ground up root that you're mixing with water, because it is the root. And so most people...
Micronized kava.
Yes, I'm sorry, micronized kava. So with micronized kava, typically you cannot drink as much of it because, again, it's just the ground up root. And so with micronized kava, it's still an okay option, but you need to be careful. And again, you need to see how your body is going to digest it. What a lot of people will sometimes do is, if they just want one shell, they'll do some micronized, or they'll do micronized and then they'll follow it up with some medium grind or, a different alternative. But that is what you need to be careful with when doing micronized, is that you don't want to have too much. You just want to understand how your body's going to react to it. And you're more likely to have some GI issues with a lot of micronized versus other options.
Yeah. So again, for most of the population, traditional kava, you can have, you know, more shells of that because it's just the kava lactones that have been strained in the water. Like how you said, micronized kava, you're still ingesting that root. Yes, it's been finely ground and it's, a lot easier to digest than just, the uh, medium grind kava that's been, ground up. But micronized, you still have to digest that plant matter. And for one or two shells, that's fine. And honestly, when we started drinking kava, that's all we bought was micronized. But we couldn't really go past three servings because we noticed that it made us really full. Especially for me, caused a lot of digestion issues. And it kind of alternated between constipation and diarrhea. The effects are so great. Like, right. So from medium grind, instant kava and micronized kava, they're all going to give you really good effects. Okay. Because it's still, kava very much like in a uh, true form versus like kava extract from like capsules, which
Or
personally, like
like
we don't really feel too
seltzer
much.
beverages.
Yeah. Now with micronized kava, one of the biggest things to look out for, obviously, is all right. Is it from a reputable brand? Is it truly micronized? Has it been finely ground? Like you don't want to buy micronized kava and be seeing kind of the wood chunks in there.
You kind
It's
of can think of it almost like sugar. You have powdered sugar and you have granulated sugar. Now, all powdered sugar is, in case you didn't know, is just granulated sugar that's been, processed. I was going to say like beat up. Someone beat that sugar up.
Beat that sugar.
Yeah. So, if you ever have a recipe that's calling for powdered sugar, you can always just blend or put in a food processor granulated sugar and it will become powdered sugar. So that's literally exactly what kava is. You have the medium grind and then you just, ground it up even finer and then that creates the micronized. So it's easier to digest and it blends in water, obviously a lot easier just by mixing it, but it still is the same plant matter, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, most people who reach out to us when it comes to the topic and theme of digestion always have issues with micronized kava powder. They'll reach out and they'll say, "Hey, found kava, like love the effects, love the feeling, but it just like kills my stomach." Then we always ask them, like, "All right, like so what brand or what type of kava are you drinking?" And 9 times out of 10, it's always micronized kava. And again, it goes back to some people have an iron stomach, and I'm jealous of those people.
Yeah.
Man. I wish I did. Back when I was like a teenager, I did. But as your body changes, especially as your gut microbiome changes and everything, it might not be that way anymore. So if you're someone who is susceptible to stomach issues, I would try micronized kava, see how it sits with you, and I would give it, substantial breaks between servings. So let's say at 5 p.m. you start drinking kava, you do, one serving of micronized. I would wait, maybe a good, 30 minutes before the next one, see how it digests. Because again, think about it, you're drinking ground up plant matter and the kava root. And that's what we love about traditional kava is because when you strain it, it leaves all that plant matter in the bag. And then that water is just full of the kava lactones. So just like the active constitutes in kava that you want versus with micronized, yeah, you're getting the active constitutes, but you're also getting all that matter. So it's just going to cause your body, to go into overdrive a little bit more to digest. And again, some people might be fine with that, but the biggest, again, when it comes to digestion issues, people who reach out to us the most, it's because of the micronized kava.
And a lot of things to also understand about digestion is, so if you're taking the kava before bed, and this is one thing, so you hear a lot of people say, oh, don't eat after, 6 p.m. for weight loss. And really, it kind of annoys me because there's no like metabolic difference about eating at 4 p.m. versus 8 p.m. But the difference is your body has to work to metabolize that food. So when you're eating a lot of food or a really heavy meal close to your bedtime, that can affect your sleep because your body is trying to process all that food. And so it can't focus on sleeping, and your body's going to be awake. It's going to be harder to fall asleep because it's trying to digest all that food. So it's the same thing with the micronized kava. You might notice if you drink that closer to bedtime, you might actually have a harder time falling asleep because your body is trying to digest it. Now, not everyone, but that might be, a side effect when normal medium grind kava helps you sleep. And if you switch to micronized, you might notice you might have it might not help you as much as the medium grind. So that's one thing to remember, as well as if you are drinking kava around meals. So we like to drink kava while we're preparing dinner, and then we like to eat dinner. But it's really hard to do that for us with micronized kava because it just fills our bellies up too much. And so we're full. That might be a good thing if you don't want to eat, if you're trying to use kava as like an appetite suppressant. That is a better thing because you're going to be really full and it's going to be harder to eat a big meal. So if you want to use it as like an appetite suppressant, you might like the micronized more. But if you are eating it before a big meal, might, not do the micronized and just do the medium grind.
Yeah. And I think that's something too where, and this is outside of kava, but also know like what foods trigger you. So if you're somewhere like, I know for me, like red meat typically causes me issues. So I eat red meat maybe once every 2 weeks.
And every time he regrets it afterwards.
Yeah, well, it depends on where it comes from.
Yeah, that's true.
For the most part, though, I stay away from red meat because I know it causes me GI upset. So let's say if I had micronized kava followed by a steak, that's setting me up for failure.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's a recipe for a very
unfortunate bathroom cleanup time.
Yeah, for real, right? So it kind of goes into like it's going to lead into our next points a little bit, but so that's your types of kava, right? So again, medium grind is going to be the most easy on your stomach because again, you're just getting the water with the active kava lactones in it, no plant matter. The next will be instant kava because that is going to have, again, that's just the traditional prep that's been made, but then just that it's been dehydrated down. So you get a very, very super fine powder that is easily mixable. And then the last thing is going to be the micronized. The micronized kava, remember, that's just the powder in the raw form, super, super finely ground. So you're getting all that plant matter in there when you're digesting it.
Now, we are not including kava extracts really when we're talking about this, such as like seltzer beverages. So you might see a kava seltzer beverage. We're not really considering that because kava extract is very different from the micronized and medium grind way of drinking kava. And you're not going to have the same effects, especially with like digestion.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how kava is a diuretic. So that when, we talk about diuretics, you can think of things, like coffee or like, actual like pharmaceutical diuretics or over-the-counter diuretics, which pull all the water out of your system. Now, when people think about diuretics, they typically think about like peeing. And yeah, kava does make you pee quite a bit, especially when you're knocking back the shells because it is a diuretic. But when you pull water out of your system, your colon also pulls water from the GI tract and it speeds up your bowel movement and then boosh, gets it out. So what
just like that, noises and everything.
Boosh. I can make better fart noises than that if I do like that. But I'll spare it.
Side note, that's like our daughter's favorite thing to do now is like kind of hide and like do a fart noise like on her arm and then like try and act like we didn't know that was an arm fart noise.
Like father, like daughter.
For real. She is like totally, as far as like joking and playing around, she is his mini.
She's like me. But, okay, so going back to the direct effect.
So your colon will pull that water in.
Yeah. So when you drink kava, and especially depending on the strength of the shells, you can be drinking a lot of water with it. Okay. You go to, a Kava bar and you kick back 5 shells, 5 doubles, or you make it at home. You can have quite a bit of liquid in there. Compound that with the direct effect of the actual Kava itself. You're going to be, peeing more than normal, and also it's probably going to spur a bowel movement. Now, for me, I actually kind of like it because at the end of the day, or when I need to, poop, I can have some kava, and usually just like that, helps me get going. So it's great, like when I'm traveling. Sometimes when you're traveling, your bowel movements get kind of out of order. I like it for that. But if you have too much kava, or you're having it, for me, certain brands or certain varieties do cause diarrhea. It's something to keep in mind because, like, again, it's a diuretic, so it's going to get things moving. Okay. So be prepared when you drink kava, especially traditional kava. It's going to get things moving.
So maybe like don't have kava on your first date if you don't quite know how it's going to affect you. Maybe wait until that, like 7th date, until you've kind of mingled a little bit more, and then you can.
But overall, I would say the direct effect is gentle for the most part. So a lot of people do like the fact that it is kind of like a natural sort of like laxative, but gentle, and to where it gets things moving.
Yeah. And what I think, again, like we talked about in the beginning, people get really weirded out about talking about poop. And I don't understand. I love talking about poop because we all do it. And it is so important. You can tell a lot about someone by the type of poop that they have and the pooping schedule that they have. And it is not healthy to not poop every day. Like, you should be pooping at least once a day. And I know so many people who are like, I don't poop, I only poop every 2 or 3 days. And just because that happens to a lot of people doesn't mean it's normal. It's not healthy and it's not normal. You should be pooping every day. Of course, there might be some circumstances. Maybe you did like a fast or whatever. That's different. But typically, you should be pooping at least once a day. And if you're not, this can be a great, more natural way to help regulate that, as opposed to taking over-the-counter medicine to, flush it out.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to the beginning of the story where we're talking about, if you ever go to a Kava bar, there's always someone pooping in the bathroom.
Always. And I always feel like I'm in line after said person who let off a bomb.
But again, it's just a natural effect. It's a diuretic, and it's going to cause you to go number 1 and go number 2, and that's normal.
It's good.
You just got to watch out for, again, I know there's certain brands and, again, certain varieties where I know, especially if I have, more of it, it usually leads to diarrhea. And that's, again, just because your body is trying to flush everything out. So your stools end up becoming, not quite solid, a little bit more liquid, because your body, again, is trying to flush everything out. But again, it's a, I guess I'd consider it a side effect in some cases.
Yeah, but I guess what we want you to get out of this is, if you start to have some of these negative side effects, we'll use the word side effects, it's really important to think about, well, how much did I have? What type did I have? What brand did I have? And maybe try and adjust things. So don't throw Kava out completely and say oh, it doesn't sit well with me. Really think about, well, what kind did I have? How much did I have? What did I eat with it? What brand did I have? And adjust those things. And it might actually sit really well with you if you can just figure out what specifics are going to work best with your body.
Yeah, it all goes back to individual, right? We say this all the time. Everyone's different.
We're all unique.
Yeah. Keep telling yourself that. We're all unique. I was kidding.
I am super unique.
You are.
You are too.
We're all special.
We're all special.
No, your mom told you that.
Oh my gosh.
I told you that too.
Never mind. I was gonna make a Tylenol joke, but ooh. I won't.
Yeah, keep in mind, everyone's experience is not the same. We're talking kind of anecdotal reports here, generalities. There was a study in 2011 by the Journal of, I think, Pharmacology or Ethnopharmacology, one of those, but actually was specifically on carbon digestion. and how it affects it. Now, kind of the last point we're going to talk about here is the diet. So yes, your diet is not directly drinking kava, but what you eat before and after kava can have an effect. So if you're eating very, I want to say, I guess like quote unquote bad foods, right? Greasy, super fatty, processed type foods, which already will set you up for failure when it comes to your, dropping the logs off. Compound that with a drink that has a diuretic effect. Yeah, you could be in for, maybe unpleasant surprise. So
Might speed things up a little bit.
Yeah. How, and again, drinking kava around food can be tricky. Typically, we say give it about 2 hours after your last meal before drinking kava. Just that way, that food's kind of in the digestion process. Your stomach's a little bit more opened up to be able to digest the kava. Because again, especially with medium grind, you might be drinking a couple of shells of this to get the effects. It's a lot of water in your belly. So if you just slammed like an extra large pizza, it's going to make you very uncomfortable, and the effects might not quite be there.
Now, if you just had maybe like a granola bar or something small, that's okay. So really kind of use your judgment. It's not as if you can't have any food 2 hours prior. We're just generally speaking, if you had a big meal, you want to wait longer. If you're just munching on some snacks, maybe some crackers or pretzels, you're fine. So use, your best judgment, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and then including too, we tend to drink kava in that time frame, right? So 2 hours after our last meal, then usually about an hour, 2 hours before our next meal. Now that next meal, same kind of thing, right? If you have something that's very processed, very fatty or oily, and already kind of gets the bowel movements going, or whatever food that is for you, right? There's certain foods that trigger.
Maybe it's like dairy, or it can be anything. We're just saying what speaks to us. Or if it's just something new, like maybe you're going out to eat somewhere new, or you're trying a new food at home, I would maybe not do kava right before, because you don't know how that food is going to sit with your stomach. Understand how that food's going to sit with you first, then try the kava with it another time.
Yeah. So when you do drink kava, just be mindful of what you're eating around it, because knowing what kava does, which we just explained, the direct effect, and if you're drinking micronized kava, you're going to have some plant matter sloshing around there. Just be mindful of what you're having before and after when it comes to your actual nutrition. And then along those lines too, stay hydrated. Again, kava is a diuretic. It's going to make you pee. You're going to be flushing, fluid out. Make sure you're staying hydrated, and not just hydrated, but having the adequate amount of sodium. Sodium's not always bad. Okay. Salt's not always bad. You need salt, you need sodium, especially to retain that hydration, and electrolytes too, which you get through your food or through supplementation.
Yeah. And so that is one thing. If you are drinking more water and you start to get a headache, that's a sign that you don't have enough sodium in your diet. And so your body's not properly able to actually use that water to hydrate. So just a fun tip there. And that is also a reason why some people will do a little hack of making their kava with coconut water, because coconut water is a great hydration, it has electrolytes, and the taste, a lot of people really like that as well. So that is another hack you can try, is prepare the kava with coconut water.
Yeah. And then also, one thing you could do too is, coconut milk. And the fat in coconut milk actually potentiates the cavalactones a little bit more to make it a little bit more effective. But again, like I kind of sometimes think that's like, trying to get like was it like finding the tree through the forest, or
yeah. And I think everyone's just a little bit different, because for me, if when people prepare kava with coconut milk, it's too much for me. Like it's too fatty for me, and that doesn't sit well with me. So everyone's different. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. So find out what works for you. But we're coming from a place of just being mindful that when you do drink kava, especially if you're new to this community and to the plant, you might poop afterwards, right? You might be drinking it, then you might have to go poop, and that's completely normal. That's expected. And be careful with the types of kava that you get. If you know you have a sensitive stomach, I honestly would just stay away from micronized kava. I would just go for the medium grind. Take the 10 minutes it takes to prep it. It's not that hard. It actually becomes a pretty enjoyable process. Or the instant kava. Okay. If you have an iron stomach and you're like, Charles, I can like eat 10 Big Macs and then slam, this drink and whole gallon milk and
oh boy, that hurts
yeah,
just to think about.
Yeah, fireworks with that one. If you're like that person, then yeah, go for the micronized. You'd probably be all right. But again, we're coming at from a place of 3 years of doing this podcast, and again in this theme of your GI system, how it reacts to kava. That's some of the biggest discussions we had is micronized hurting the stomach, and then the direct effect. People are usually kind of surprised. They'll have a couple shells and then go poop within 10 minutes.
All right, guys. So we would love to hear your thoughts, any issues or tips that you've had, what your favorite is. Drop it in the comments and let's start a conversation.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to Kava and Kettlebells, where we talk about kava, fitness, and life. Let's get Kava-fied.